Let's move to the comment of DG Environment, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamell.
Thank you very much. If I start with a few slightly different remarks, well, you'll feel that your trip has been worthwhile. Let's be clear. We've constructed the CAP over the past 20 years extremely carefully. And within that has been the fundamental of environmental integration. And environmental integration is not a casual add-on to the CAP. It's a treaty obligation. And it's a treaty obligation that goes quite deep. Within the construction in European funding, DG Environment has no money. And therefore, the implementation of policy has to be either strict legislation or through support through other areas. And that's been a choice made, in my view, as long ago as 20, 25 years ago, certainly built into the McSharry reform and built in subsequently to every single reform. If the progress of environmental integration is not continued in this reform, then those who would look to public goods will ask a very simple question, and the question will be, is the CAP capable of absorbing environmental integration? And if it is not, why not have a new shape to policy? And that's a debate that will emerge over the next years if the environmental sector is not content at the outcome today, or not today, but in the next 4 or 5 months. And it's something to bear carefully in mind for those who would support agriculture in the medium to long term. Do we want to have this linkage into environment or not? Cross-compliance has received very little attention in this discussion so far, and the orientation would seem to be to reduce its power rather than to increase its power compared to what the Commission has proposed. And that's significant. Why? Because the removal, if that's what it turns out to be, of the Water Framework Directive proposal and the Sustainable Use of Pesticides proposal, and of any good agricultural and environmental practice from the baseline of the CAP cross-compliance mechanism, will raise a question as to what the potential is that the citizen is paying for things that should be done in any event. But it will also raise another very difficult question, in that from the 1st of January 2014, under the Sustainable Use of Pesticides legislation, Member States are obliged to have integrated pest management in place. If it is not in place, how can the Commission agree within the context of rural development to agri-environment schemes based on pesticide reductions, since we won't know what the baseline for pesticide use will be? How can we have a successful respect within rural development for measures that would help water if we don't know what the obligations, and this applies to several countries today, what the obligations in relation to the river basin management plans and the programme of measures under the Water Framework Directive are? And yet that's a message that's being given quite casually. And we look to a solution, but we're not seeing the solution yet. And the same kind of argument can be made in relation to a number of the good agricultural and environmental conditions. So there's much to play in cross-compliance. And if we miss the boat on cross-compliance, then really the signal given to this society is society will pay for lack of respect, and if society pays, that means that taxpayers will pay, and if taxpayers pay, they will probably have to pay once for measures, and they will probably have to pay a second time to clean up. Well, taxpayers may not like that formulation over a period of time. So be careful, those who are in positions of debate. On greening, what can we say beyond what has already been said? Well, the heads of government were very clear, greening, and what greening meant, enhancement. If you read paragraph 67 of their document, first line, enhancement. So no greenwash, nothing of that nature. And it also mentions each farm. On each individual farm is there. So we have a question mark over whether you can put different hectareages when certainly the Council of the heads of government have indicated what they want. They're significant issues, and they need to be reflected upon. I think I'll stop there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The room has gone quiet. It's interesting, the first two comments, the European Parliament thinks this is, Commission proposals need to be sort of eased in so that they can be lived with. DG Environment saying if you don't get a green result at the end of this, your policy is in jeopardy. So I guess somewhere between the two, it's, we've got to be careful as farmers, I suppose.